This is you, a classically trained painter with $92,000 in art school debt, working restoration at a regional museum for $41,000 a year, watching your own unsold canvases gather dust in a storage unit you can barely afford. Then a gallerist named Odette Voss looks at your restoration work for exactly 4 seconds and asks if you've ever considered painting something that was never actually lost. Before Odette, this was you, a 600-square-foot apartment doubling as storage for 11 unsold canvases, a stack of graduate program rejection letters kept in a drawer for reasons you never examined too closely, and a part-time framing shop shift that paid $12 an hour less than your museum salary. The job, a rediscovered still life in the exact hand of a minor 19th century painter nobody alive can verify anymore. $15,000, cash, for 6 weeks of work nobody's name will ever be attached to but yours, secretly. You learn to age 3 centuries of craquelure by feel and patience. No 2 paintings cracking the same way twice. You learn which pigments existed in 1850 and which didn't. You learn that forgery isn't really about painting. It's about lying in a language most people don't know they're fluent in reading. Nobody fails art school and becomes a con artist on purpose. It just turns out to be the only job that uses the whole degree. The jobs keep coming. A newly attributed sketch, a long-lost portrait pulled from a fictional attic in a fictional Belgian estate sale. Odette handles the provenance, the fake sale records, the fake export permits, the fake decades of silence that make a forgery sound like history instead of a lie. Your cut climbs from $15,000 to $60,000 to $200,000 apiece, as the paintings you fake get sold for numbers with 6 zeros to private collectors who will never let anyone qualified look too closely. The art world's favorite trick is confusing expensive with real. You just started charging admission. You develop your own quiet specialty, not copying a painter's hand, but finishing a painting they supposedly left unfinished at death. The hardest forgery there is, because you have to think like someone who's already gone. 18 months in, you can fake 4 distinct dead painters' brushwork without a reference in the room. In a studio you built behind a false wall, under a skylight nobody else has a key to. One of your pieces, a rediscovered 1962 abstract by a mid-century painter with exactly 1 living relative, sells at a private sale for $1.8 million. Your cut, $210,000. Then Odette calls with a name attached to the buyer for once, which never happens. Marguerite Duval, 78, granddaughter of the mid-century painter whose lost 1962 abstract you finished by candlelight and a photograph. She didn't buy it for the wall. She bought it to finally own one piece of a grandfather she was told her whole childhood made nothing worth keeping. She sold her own condominium to afford it. She's 78, lives above a bakery in Antwerp now, in 2 rooms instead of the 4 she used to have, because owning one real memory of a grandfather she never met felt to her worth the trade. You find the letter she wrote the gallery, thanking them for finding a piece of him. Odette forwards it to you with 1 line. Good work. Nobody warns you that the hardest part of forgery isn't getting caught, it's getting thanked. You used to think selling out meant painting something ugly for money. Turns out it means painting something beautiful for a lie. You buy real materials for the first time in years, a proper easel, sable brushes, a north-facing studio with actual light, and you tell yourself quietly that you'll paint something real again soon. You don't. You start drinking before you paint, which any forger will tell you is how the hand starts to slip in ways a trained eye eventually notices. 11 forgeries deep, a museum conservator in Rotterdam runs a new pigment dating scan on an unrelated piece and finds a titanium white that wasn't commercially available until 1920, inside a painting dated 1894. It's not even one of yours, but it's close enough to your era, your circle, your dealer's known clients, that 3 separate journalists start quietly asking the same question. How many rediscoveries has one gallery really found in 5 years? The first article runs anonymous sourced and careful, 3,000 words about a troubling pattern in mid-century rediscoveries. Your name nowhere in it yet. Just one paragraph about a restoration technique traceable to a small number of specialists, which in this entire industry might as well be a name. Turns out chemistry doesn't care how good your brushwork is. Odette stops taking your calls the same week. An unofficial, leaked bulletin on art crime starts circulating a stylistic profile that matches, uncomfortably, a technique taught at exactly one graduate program in the country. Yours. You reach her assistant instead, who tells you, in a voice too calm to be an accident, that Odette stepped back from acquisitions 3 days ago and isn't taking meetings related to prior consignments. You realize the 40 sales records with your unmistakable technique on them all list one name as the sole restoration consultant. Not Odette's gallery, not the collector's. Yours. You were never the ghost hand behind the operation. You were always the paper trail, kept clean and singular, in case the operation ever needed exactly one name to hand over. Provenance means where something came from. Nobody ever asks where the story goes when it's done being useful. You sit in your real studio, under your real north-facing light, in front of a canvas that is, for the first time in 3 years, actually yours. And you can't make yourself pick up the brush. Marguerite Duval's letter is still open on your laptop. A piece of him, it says. You never told her it was a piece of you instead. Your phone rings, unknown number. The caller says your full legal name, then speaks carefully. Marguerite Duval is sitting beside me. She wants to know whether her grandfather painted it. You look at her letter, still open on the screen, and pick up. This is still you. There are other seats in this machine. Pick your next life.